Welcome to a video from digitallifestyle.com. This video I'm going to look whether the Korg Collection is still worth getting in 2024. So the Korg Collection is a set of plugins, virtual synths from Korg, recreated some classic synths from 70s, 80s, 90s and into 2000s. So including the collection you get the M1, Wavestation, ARP Odyssey, MS-20, Polysix, Monopoly, miniKorg, miniKorg, there's the Electribe drum machine, the Chaos pad and Tritons as well. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to give you a quick overview of each of the synths. I'm not going to go too deep into each synth. I've got separate videos on the M1, Wavestation and the Polysix as well, so you can check those out. But I'll give you a good flavour of what they are. So this collection works with 64-bit versions of Windows and Mac OS, and there's demo versions as well, so you can give them a try. There's the standalone versions and there's the plug-in versions as well. In this video I'm going to stick to the standalone versions just because it makes it easier to demo on doing these recordings. What I've decided to do is split this into two videos because it ended up too long. So first half of the video, about 30 minutes, I'm going to be looking at the Wavestation, the miniKorg, the Odyssey, Electribe, Polysix and M1. And then in part two, I'm going to look at the Monopoly, MS-20, Triton, Prophecy, Chaos Pad and miniKorg. So let's get straight to part one. The 1990 classic Korg Wavestation. So capable of some very rich and interesting sounds, the Wavestation, especially complex pad and motion sounds. Its origins come from Sequential, when Sequential made the Prophet VS, the Vector Synth, the classic digital synth in the 80s. And when Prophet were bought by Yamaha and they were due to in financial difficulties, the Sequential team went to Yamaha, a lot of them did, and Yamaha also owned Korg at the time, and there you end up with the Yamaha SY22 vector synthesis and the Wavestation, which is a vector synthesis. But it's a lot more than that, it's wave sequencing as well, and that's what enables these really complex sounds. So you get evolving pad sounds like this. And those wave sequencing sound you heard in the beginning. So let's go back to say this one. The architecture of the synth is actually pretty complex. So each performance is made up of patches. So one performance can have 8 patches, and each patch can be made up of 2 oscillators, and each of the 2 oscillators can use waveforms from the ROM and then sequence them. So here, if I do a preview, you can hear the first sound in the sequence, second, and that's how you put them together like that. So you can create these immensely complex, rich, evolving sounds by doing this wave sequencing. So if I get a nice motion one. So that sort of early 90s, late 80s kind of sound. But there's not just the wave sequencing, there's really nice pads on here. And you get that sort of evolving pad by going through and doing these wave sequences. You can it actually sequence steps through them. The other thing it's got is this vector joystick on there. So maybe if I find a lead sound, to switch between those waveforms, you can map that via MIDI, and so you can see I'm using the joystick to control that. A lot of the waveforms from the vector synthesis are in here as well. So included in this are all the original factory presets, the RAMs and all the ROMs, or 11 of them. So there's loads of sounds on here. There are some you may recognise as well. If you're 1990 Genesis We Can't Dance, Fading Lights, Tony Banks used the mini lead patch there for the fading light solo. But also included are the cards that were available as additional cards which went in the back, which had extra waveforms in there and performances. One of the initial criticisms of the Wavestation was it didn't have the bread and butter sounds which people wanted at the time. Now we kind of have dedicated synths and dedicated roles, but so there wasn't a lot of standard piano type sounds in there. So they were included in the cards, and also drum kits as well were added in those cards. So not the general MIDI positioning of them, but so yeah, they introduced those as well, so you could get those. Another one of my favourites was Warm Strings. This was used by Genesis as well, Tony Banks. On fading lights as well, so it's capable of producing very nice, warm, evolving sounds, as well as the motion type sounds. Tangerine Dream. And it was capable of a lot, so it's a very rich synth and capable of a lot. So that is the Wavestation. Let's go old school now and have a look at the miniKorg. This is the 1973 model synth. This is based on the slightly later 700S, miniKorg 700S. It's an unusual synth, a slightly different layout than we're used to. They don't have a filter, but it's called a traveller, but essentially it is a filter. The other thing that's nice with this as well, there's a nice 3D version where you can see the synth with some effects that are built in as well, so you can control these as effects as well, so you get the sort of complete package on there. We'll have a look at the main synth first. You can hear the presets, some interesting presets on here. We've got lead sounds, acid type sounds, nice poly sounds, even though it was a mono synth. There's quite a lot of basses in here with the arpeggiator. Some nice old school sounds as well. So this is the Oscillator 2 modifier, or Oscillator 2 section, where you can control the pitch of the second oscillator, and fine and coarse, and the balance of it. So just VCO1, just VCO2 in the middle. Sounds lovely. And there we go. So that's doing both. In modulation 1 mode, that's ring modulating VCO1 on VCO2. So you'll get some nice bell. In modulation 2, this is the same one but an octave above. With 3, it's doing kind of random sounds or random pitches through the ring modulation, and I've got the manual up here, and it says it uses different tones and random scales from the 37 keys without following the keyboard. And then we've got noise, so you've got lower noise. So here we've got the traveller section, which is your filter, low pass and high pass essentially. These little notches here, by the way, were plastic, and to stop you from going the other way, so where the high pass is blocking all the sound and the low pass doesn't really do anything. Some people used to break these off apparently to make some interesting effects, but we can do it anyway either way. So there's, you can adjust those filters like that. The expand is kind of, it gets affected a lot by the attack and the perk on here as well. Now we get some sustain. We've got the bender control as well, which It's not like portamento, but it's having like a pitch envelope to it. There's your portamento. And there's your vibrato and delay of the vibrato as well. You can do some virtual patching with it as well. So here velocity is not linked. Here velocity can be linked to VCA level, but I could change that to the high pass cutoff, say. In terms of effects, you've got distortion, which I think is on. That's off. Let's turn all the effects off. So there's your distortion. We've got an equalizer. Got a nice chorus flanger. Ensemble mode. Flanger. Let's turn 50. So it's got some nice sounds on it. So it's slightly different from the other synths, like the Odyssey recreation or the Monopoly. But it's got its uses and it's a nice fun instrument, so definitely check that one out. So here we've got the ARP Odyssey. This is an old school synth. This is not a Korg synth, but actually they do make these now. You can buy an ARP Odyssey made by Korg. This is the 1972 classic analog synth, and Korg have added a sequencer. They've added an effects to it as well. So it's actually a really, really nice, interesting synth, this one. The layout is a bit different from the traditional sort of synth, but you can soon get used to it. So you get the traditional sort of analog lead sounds, which you'll get, and these are sounds that I've created of here. So it's actually really easy to program once you've got used to how the controls are laid out. So you've got two oscillators with a mixer section, VCF and a high pass filter as well. There's three different models of VCF because the original one apparently infringed some patents from Moog, and so the later releases of the Odyssey had different filters in them, and that's what's been recreated here. In fact, there's three skins to go with the different revisions of them as well. So it's capable of producing some really nice big sounds too. It's got a lovely filter on there. You can hear the difference between the filters. And there are loads of presets to play as well. So pulse width leads, nice rich filter type leads on there. It's capable of doing the original one could do a duo. This one, of course, being software, it can do polyphonic and it can do unison, and that's what this is, using the unison mode on there as well. The sequencer is also great because you can not only can you do pitch, but you can also introduce modulate other parameters. So this one here, you can see it's the semitone, and that's all we're changing at the moment. But what we could do is we could alter the filter cutoff. Let's turn that on. So there's the filter cutoff access now. So we can. And we've got two other lanes as well, so we could do the resonance or something like that. So it's great, it's capable of some really nice bass sounds, some great analog sounds. And especially if you flick that arpeggiator over. It's even got some nice things like you can randomize and stuff. Like the other synths as well, it can learn the controls. So the VCF, I could assign it to my control the mod wave. So you can hear the kind of analog sounds that it's capable of doing. So you've got, let's say you've got oscillators down here where you can choose some modulation, LFO type modulation, and you can choose your waveforms over here. You can get the mixer. You've got some noise as well. You've got ADSR envelopes. You've got 2 envelopes you can use in different ways. It's a really great sounding analog synth, so well worth adding to your collection. It's great for basses and for leads. So let's move on to the next one. So this is the Korg Electribe, the 1991 instrument. This is a little groove box, and it's got analog digital type sounds in there with presets. There's loads of presets available actually, right up to some of there was a virtual version for the iOS. Those presets are included as well. I had one of these back in the early 2000s, and it's a nice drum machine. So it's a nice little drum machine, and you've got some nice grid editors, which obviously you didn't have on the original one. So these are some of the presets. You can see there's tons of them on here to choose from. And then you can adjust these sounds as well. So you can use the MIDI learn, which I've done, so I can control these from the mod wave, and you can choose to sort of using a sine. You can have some modulation of like sample and hold, and push it. And then you've got some samples as well. So all controlling that through the mod wave on there, and like I said, you've got these grid editors as well. So you've got like a synth engine in there, and the drums as well. Again, all synced up with MIDI. Nice to have that in there. So the next one on the list is the Polysix. The Polysix, it was released in 1981, was Korg's answer to the Juno range, sort of affordable polyphonic synths, and actually it's a really nice traditional classic polysynth, so it's easy, very easy to program. So it's got some very nice presets on here, and like I said, it's easy to program, create your own. This is a brass sound that I've created, and you can see there's tons on here as well. So there's nice leads. So there's nice lead sounds on here, and there's sort of your bell type sounds as well. So it's a pretty simple synth. You can have a choice of triangle, pulse width, and pulse width modulation. You can control over the speed, and there's a sub oscillator as well. Then you've got frequency cutoff. As the others, you can learn them, so I'll control this from the mod wave. Resonant filter. And then you've got the choice for envelope. You've only got a single envelope. You can, for the VCA, you can use the gate or the envelope. And then you've got some modulation as well, so we can, which you can sync up as well. So we've got a delay as well, so we can have the modulation of the VCO. See the long delay. Short. you can do the pitch. And then we've got a really nice arpeggiator. So it's not key synced, but you can have it key synced if you want. Then we've got the chorus and the ensemble. The ensemble is really what the Polysix was known for, and in fact the ensemble sound is in the mod wave. And in fact the mod wave has the whole filter section actually from the Polysix. It has that filter built in. Okay, so another interesting thing with this collection is there's effects you can have. So the Polysix didn't have these effects here, but you can add those in, and they're available to use in your DAW as a send effect or whatever you want. And it's called MDX, and you can choose these templates as well. There's templates on there. So we've got this sound now. I can add some delay to it, and then, like I said, you could use these with anything in your DAW, or with the with these synths as well. So I can add. So these aren't obviously the original in the Polysix, but these are available on here now, so I can use these. And there's some really useful effects on there, some quite nice effects. So you've got compressors and distortions, and you can get guitar type distortions. So these are really useful as well. So as well as all you get with the synths, you get those as a separate module that you can include as well. So this is the 1988 classic M1. This is one of the best-selling synths of all time, and some classic patches in there. So it was one of the first workstations. So it had a sequencer, drum machine, effects, and that's really what made it so popular. What you heard there is the film score preset, one of the first ones on there, and you'll recognise many of these sounds. So this one is a multi-timbral instrument, so you have programs and combinations. So you could have a single program, or you could have layers with these different combis like that. So this has got the tubular bells type sound, strings, piano and choir. If you go to program mode, you can then browse and just pick your single ones off here. So you recognise some classic sounds like the organ sound. It's a rompler, so you can't bring your own waveforms into anything else, but you have got some great sounds in there, like the house piano. If you look at it, it's a dual oscillator, so you can have two oscillators in there, and you can pick from a range of waveforms or samples effectively. So we were using that, and then that's without any effects on it. And then if we go back to it, you can hear the effects. So there's a filter on there with some resonance. Resonance wasn't included on the original M1, so that's an addition to it. You've got multiple envelopes, and you've got two insert effects. So it's really it's easy to program, but I think most people use it just using the presets. And like I said, there are some great ones in there. So you've heard the organ and the piano sounds. You've got a choir. Queen used on Going Slightly Mad. You've got nice pad sounds on there, but there's the samples and realistic sounds, like this trumpet. So imagine, back in the late 80s, that's a big change from say the trumpet sound off even a DX7 or a D50. These were really realistic for the time sounds. There's drum kits in there as well. You've got the standard one, which are in the general MIDI patterns on there. Included are all 21 cards that were available from Korg, and also the T1 cards. So the T1 was a later synth than the M1, but based on the M1 engine, and you can get those cards in there as well. Used a lot by Tangerine Dream and other groups in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. You've got a nice browser on here as well, where you can search again by category. So you can choose things like that 12 string, which again was used by Tangerine Dream in the sort of early 90s type stuff. So it's a slice of time, especially if you're going like with the M1 piano and organ, but it's a versatile synth, and like you've got the dual insert effects on it as well. So I really like this one. It's very much of its time, but a nice synth. So that's where I'm going to end part 1. Check out part 2 for the other synths which I talked about at the beginning. I'll see you on the next video.